All of us react to change in different ways and in different situations. For the most part, sometimes change can be very daunting because we like things the way they are. We get a certain level of comfort. Oftentimes, change is the anticipation of something that's new and it's exciting, and it can fill us with a great sense of anticipation. The season of Lent is all about change. And it's about the most important and necessary change that each of us needs. A turning away from our sin, being reconciled to Christ. It's about ridding ourselves of those sinful tendencies that can enslave us, and then being freed in the liberating power of God's mercy and His grace. Today's gospel gives us a wonderful example of change. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up to a mountain, and He is transfigured before them. He undergoes a most dramatic physical change. St. Matthew tells us that His face shone like the sun, His clothes became white as light. But this change is of a special quality because our Lord does not undergo a change in any substantial sense. He does not become different from who He is, but He reveals His true identity in that physical change that it discloses His divinity. And that's the type of change that Lent offers to us. You and I are all children of God, and we possess this identity that is divine. And yet it becomes tarnished by original sin and our own personal sins. Because of original sin, our tendencies are now not toward the good naturally, but to selfishness. And then our own sins further obscure that identity of who we are. And so we're called to change. We're called to go up the mountain of our Lenten journey, to fast and pray and give alms, so that we might be transfigured. St. Leo the Great gives a great sermon on this reality when he says, as Christ was transfigured, we who are members of His body are meant to be so too. Again, not into someone different, but who we are. Because we're never ourselves when we sin. It is only holiness of life that will strengthen us with God's grace to reveal us the best of our truest identity as His son or daughter. It's what happens to Abraham in our first reading, and to his progeny. The Lord chooses him. He's called to go forth and to undergo the change meant for him. God says, I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And so here's a great insight of our spiritual life. Our change is all God's work. You and I can't make ourselves holy. It is His power that will do that in the life of the church, in her sacraments, in our Lenten practices of prayer and fasting and almsgiving, and in the normal situations of everyday life. St. Paul in our second reading writes about that, referring to our trials and sufferings, calling us to bear our share of hardships for the gospel with the strength that comes from God, again, so that we might advance in holiness. St. Paul emphasizes that God has saved us, and He has called us to this new life in Him. We must cooperate with that, yes, but it, again, is always His work to perfect us in His grace. The second Sunday of Lent every year contains a gospel that recounts this transfiguration from either Matthew, Mark, or Luke. This afternoon, as we do every year, our church will engage in its 40-hour devotion. And so today, from noon until 7 o'clock, we have our evening prayer. Tomorrow, from noon till 7 o'clock, you and I will be invited to what is truly a transfiguration event. Our Lord will be here in His risen glory, in His Eucharistic presence, enthroned in the monstrance on our altar. May we take advantage of this invitation and come here to gaze upon him in praise and thanksgiving for all the blessings he has given us. To say with St. Peter, Lord, it is good that we are here. May we come here to pray to him, to seek the strength and consolation that all of us need in all the trials and struggles that are ours. May we hear that voice from the cloud say, this is my beloved Son, listen to him. And may we do that more and more, transfigured, changed, to become more of who we are, children of our infinitely loving God, always meant to experience and then share the power of his love and his peace.